guys, it's Kai. From driving on the edge of a cliff to the most boring, vast, lonely roads, here are 10 of the scariest roads in the world. Number 10. Skipper's Canyon Road in New Zealand. Skipper's Canyon Road is not only one of the most dangerous roads on the planet, but also one of the scariest. Imagine driving your car on a gravelly path, with stones and pebbles hitting the bottom of your car, striking it with such force that you might think you were getting showered by angry medieval catapults. Then you would have to cross 16.5 miles of very narrow roads, barely large enough to fit a car, let alone two vehicles coming from opposite directions. And if you meet one coming from the other direction, the only way to continue would be to go back out about 1.5 miles just to find a wide enough place to let the other car pass. And that is the drop that overflows the cup of anger that you have accumulated towards this road. Then you realize that the road was cut by miners with their own hands about 140 years ago during the 1880 gold rush. And weirdly enough, after a couple of seconds, you are humbled by an invisible force. Finally, do not look down if you think that you will have a problem with several hundred feet of a vertical drop, as the bottom will definitely make you dizzy. But that is not all, folks. Mother Nature has done her best to make sure that if you fall down the jagged rocks on the way down in this part of the South Island of New Zealand would make it very hard for painters to transfer your image on a canvas. The views are great, and they make the whole trip worth all the tension and fear that goes through your veins. Number 9. North Yungas Road, or El Camino de la Muerte in Bolivia. They call it the Way of Destiny, or more properly, the Way of Death. It is more than 35 miles and extends from La Paz to Caraco. It is estimated that between 200 and 300 travelers are losing their lives along this infamous road. These are reportable deaths, and the actual number can be higher than that. If you have the nerve to cross this famous passage, you will see several cross marks on certain sections of the road, marking where cars, trucks, and other vehicles have made their last leap. Your first challenge would be climbing the 15,260 feet to La Cumbre Pass. This is a slow climb, as the steep incline of the road will generally push the limits even of the toughest engines on Earth. Then there is a 3,900-foot descent, which is a favorite stretch for reckless cyclists and mountain bikers, and it leads straight to Caraco. Do not dare cross the path of death during the rainy season, because the stretch is high in the mountains and visibility can be hindered by both rain and fog. The road can become so muddy and slippery that it becomes a source of danger in itself. In the summer, vehicle dust and the risk of rocks falling are the #1 enemy for all passers-by. Number 8. Zojila in India. Don't make the mistake of calling this Zojila Pass, as you would be calling it Zoji Pass, since La is already the Himalayan word for pass. It may only be 5.6 miles long, but Zojila can be very difficult to cross. Extending at an altitude of 11,575 feet above sea level in one of the sections of the equally famous Himalayan mountain range, the Zodi Pass connects Amid Lek to the Srinagar in Jammu and Kashmir in India. Therefore, you can imagine its economic importance in the area. You cannot go through Zojila in the winter, as it is practically impassable. Compared to other roads on this list, Zojila is several inches wider, though it still requires nerves of steel to drive on. Your confidence in your driving skills is the key to successfully passing the transition. Your best bet for a vehicle would be a 4-wheel drive one, as there are many irregular surfaces in certain sections of the road. If it rains, the road can be especially tricky, even for 4-wheel monsters. The drops are also quite steep, and there are no railings to prevent driving enthusiasts from falling to their doom. Whatever you do, do not look out the window, as this can be particularly disorienting. However, the view can be quite impressive. Unfortunately, looking at the breathtaking views of the highest peaks on the Earth can be the reason for your fall into the abyss a few thousand feet below. And now for number 7. But first, if you're new to the channel, welcome. Be sure to subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss out on more videos like these. Number 7. James Dalton Highway in Alaska. There is a reason why Alaska is known as the last frontier of the United States. If you manage to drive the entire 414 miles of the James Dalton Highway without jumping from your seat while doing it, you can drive anywhere. Unlike other dangerous roads on the planet, there are no rocky cliffs that can immediately spell your doom along the former Alaska Road 11. There are no rocks, mudslides, or even landslides. In fact, there are no vertical rock faces to look at as you drive hundreds of miles. So what's the problem? Boredom, and the feeling of being so isolated from the rest of the world. This stretch of gravel road is called the loneliest road on Earth. If you decide to try the most isolated route in the world, you will need to go through an intensive survival course, as staying on the road with huge trucks hauling big loads definitely tests your reflexes. The rule for driving is simple. You see a big truck coming at you, you move out of the way as soon as you can. Number 6. Spabgar Road in Iceland. Also known as Route 622, Spabgar Road is a 13.6-mile pass between Lokinhamrar and Pingeiri, giving a very dramatic view of the Arnafjordur and the Dýrafjordur fjords. Try to say those. The rough gravel provides a road that only four-wheel drive cars with extremely high ground clearances can pass. You'll have to navigate to and below magnificent cliffs with irregular edges a few inches from your head. Reaching the southern part of the road requires some planning because you should wait for low tide. Incorrectly calculating your speed simply means waiting several hours to see the tide withdraw from the shore. Do not pray for rain when leaving to navigate this road, as even the most experienced drivers have been tested by it and many have failed. The lower parts of the road simply disappear from the face of the earth during winter storms. You will also have to cope with the landslides, heavy snowfall, and avalanches. There are many things that can go wrong and usually do. The road itself is unusually narrow, often covered with rocks as large as Ottoman. There are also rocks that are hanging dangerously above the passing vehicles, just waiting for their cue to wreak havoc. But here's the thing, if you manage to conquer the road yourself, good for you. Only a few people can pull off something like that on their first try. Number 5. Albano Pass in Georgia. How fast can you go through a 52-kilometer stretch of road? In less than an hour, right? Well, if you try Albano Pass in Tusheti, Georgia, it will take you 12 hours, or maybe even more. This passage is located right in the heart of Caucasus, about 9,350 feet above sea level. Although it is not the most manageable route in this mountain range, only 4x4 vehicles can literally complete this journey. Conditions can change in the blink of an eye, often even faster. It links to Tusheti in the north, Kakheti in the south. Crossing Albano is only allowed in the summer. In addition, frequent changes in the weather can happen at any time. And if you drive the stretch, the authorities decide to close it. Sit down and pray to God of landslides, rocks, and avalanches for mercy and forgiveness. There are parts of Albano that are quite far away, so you are expected to prepare well in advance. However, do not make the mistake of overstuffing your belly with food before you start your climb, as the winding road at high altitude has the tendency to make people lose their lunches. Remember, this is one of the highest roads. Number 4. Fairy Meadow Roads in Pakistan. Don't let this stretch of 10-mile dirt road fool you. It may give you a very impressive view of the side of Pakistan, but look away from the road and you will see a fall of several thousand feet. Fairy Meadows Road has been consistently identified as one of the most dangerous roads in the world, and it's easy to see why. Continuing on down the highway, another deadly passage that crosses the heart of the Gilgit-Baltistan area and ends at Tato, Fairy Tale Meadows combines the dangers of oxygen-free breathing, a completely pristine gravel peak, and a very unstable rock face waiting to collapse. Although the 10 kilometers of death that are considered safe by Pakistani standards, the point of the 6-mile climb where vehicles are literally moving at a snail's pace is more tricky. You are a wrong move away from the base of jumping off the Eiffel Tower. A small contraction of the arm muscles can send a vehicle on the express elevator to the bottom of the valley. Unfortunately, what will greet you are the jagged edges of rocks and boulders larger than a London double-decker bus. There are no barriers to stop your dive. There are no lights except the flickering of distant stars, which are often obscured by the clouds in the region. No one dares to drive on the Fairy Meadows Road at night. Only a Jeep Wrangler can make its way through. The only safe time for drivers in the area to drive is wintertime because the road is closed. Number 3. Guoliang Tunnel Road in China. The Guoliang Tunnel is only 3/4 of a kilometer long, but it is considered the most treacherous 3/4 you can drive on. Guoliang is a hand-carved road using only chisels and primitive hammers. 13 villagers from the small town of Guoliang dug a tunnel through Taheng in an attempt to connect their village to the rest of the world. At the end of 1977, when it was finished, it became an instant success. You don't often see a tunnel carved into a mountainside by hand tools only. It is 13 feet wide and 16 feet tall. The tunnel road remains one of the most dangerous roads in existence, as even the slightest mistake can prove disastrous, not only for you but also for the many tourists who walk through the man-made tunnel. Number 2. Taroko Gorge Road in Taiwan. If you have vertigo or fear of landslides, then don't dare to drive this road in Taiwan. You will miss this picturesque mountain landscape of this region, which connects the eastern and western coast of the small island nation off the coast of China. While the road itself is made by the most advanced tunneling technology in this part of the world, the very nature of the gorge makes it one of the most dangerous worlds. There are barriers all over, except that there are numerous blind turns, narrow roads, and tight turns that require a zen approach to driving if you want to get to the Taiwan shores alive. What makes it quite complicated is that you have buses, cars, scooters, and pedestrians competing for the narrow road. And if you are familiar with Taiwan, you know that this is the way of Asian storm systems. It is also part of the Pacific Ring of Fire, an area prone to earthquakes around the Pacific Ocean. Now add landslides and rock slides to the mix and you'll find out why it's one of the most treacherous, though superbly constructed roads on the planet. Number 1. Karakoram Highway from Pakistan to China. Have you ever heard of the Karakoram Highway? This 800-mile stretch that connects China to Pakistan is known as the toughest alpine climb on the planet. It is a mixture of paved and unpaved roads, the first being only on the Chinese side of the section. It follows the backbone of the Karakoram mountain range and crosses the Kunarad Pass. Completing the road required 27 years and 892 fatalities. The Karakoram Highway is also considered to be one of the scariest roads to drive on. The road itself, especially along the 551-mile Pakistani Trail, can test your stamina, as well as the power of handling that you have over your car. With hundreds of turns, mostly 1 or 2 wheels, hanging precariously just above the cliff, only the toughest drivers dared to confront the mighty Karakoram. There are avalanches, landslides, and heavy snowfall, and because it is at the top of a mountain range, it is definitely not for the people with intense altitude fears or altitude sickness. On one side of the road is the face of Karakoram, often with sharp rocks protruding from the rock wall like metal spikes of an armored plate. On the other side of the road, there is a clear vertical fall, often covered by low clouds. And without the protection of the railings, their margin of error is quite small. Of course, you can be amazed at the magnificence of the views, but make no mistake, Karakoram kills, especially those who do not pay attention to its harsh features. This road is classified as dangerous for various reasons. Only the most rigorous and mentally trained drivers dare to tempt fate by driving on it, and luckily for some of them, live to tell the tale. Thanks for watching. Which of these roads would you like to try your luck on? Have you got any advice to the people that want to attempt to conquer some of these roads? Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe and I'll see you next time. Bye.